So just to give you some perspective, and this is not, I'm not trying to brag. I'm I'm a pretty humble person. I just want to give you some perspective that we're the market leader for both hardware firewalls and software firewalls. So we see a lot of activity, we see a lot of problems, we see a lot of customers struggling to figure out how to secure their environment as they're adopting cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud environments. So I just want to give you some perspective that, if not, what I'm going to be talking about is really things that we're seeing. It's not made up or from our marketing team. It's really things that we're seeing in real world. So a quick journey, a typical journey that we're seeing customers somewhere on this scale. And I'm sure everybody on this call is here somewhere, starting with their footprint in a traditional data center, 15 or some odd years ago. At some point, adopting virtualization to really get efficiencies instead of leveraging strictly hardware environments. That idea of doing some consolidation or migration to a virtualized environment. And then starting to, probably around maybe 2010, at the earliest, people started to adopt cloud. So leveraging things like, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud to really lift and shift applications to get efficiencies, whether that's just speed of innovation or, some competitive advantage to really start to leverage cloud as a environment for their applications and workloads. And then really, I think where we're at today is probably more of this the stage where customers are starting to now not just lift applications into cloud, but they're actually developing in the cloud, native first, digital first, and then not just leveraging one cloud, but probably, at least the customers that we see are using, at least 2 or 3 cloud providers. So kind of having a hybrid environment. And again, not just cloud, but also still maintaining a footprint in the data center, probably with that virtualization included as well. And now in 2024, AI is the big buzzword. We're actually starting to see customers adopt AI, write AI applications, let their employees embrace AI. And so this is becoming a new stack of technology that customers have to start to think about the security and really what to do to make sure that that's a secure and productive environment. So I know most security webinars start off with the scary news at the beginning, so I'll stick to that framework. It's no surprise, I don't think, to anybody in the call that we're still seeing attacks and threats continuing to go up and to the right. It just kind of is what it is. We're seeing more complex threats. We're seeing bigger, more of everything. Adversaries are leveraging all those technologies that I just mentioned on the previous slide. So we're starting to see automation, cloud, and even AI being used to start to initiate these attacks. And of course, this is just causing things to be more difficult and more complex. So attacks are now harder to be identified, and they're much quicker, and also a lot more zero-day that we're starting to see. Like I said, in addition to that, things are becoming more complex on the customer side. So as customers continue to kind of grow a multi-cloud strategy or a hybrid strategy that would include a physical environment, that just continues to kind of add to the overall problem, just in terms of trying to identify how what your attack surface is and how to best secure that. And then just even on the right hand side, really just operationally, things have become much more complex, because as these environments grow, what has happened organically is that customers have typically, not for any bad reason, have started to adopt different tools for different environments. And now we're at this kind of point where there's like this tool sprawl, and that's causing a lot of issues, because essentially that's leading to to misconfigurations and just human error that's unavoidable if you're using 50, 60, 70 different solutions to try to protect all these different environments. I know this looks really simplistic, and it really is, but this is honestly what we're still seeing as a really, if you distill down what we're seeing in terms of cloud attacks that are successful. Number one, they typically still continue to be sort of a network-based attack. So in that sense, really nothing different than what we might have seen 10, 15 years ago in the data center. It's really still that same framework. And what happens is typically somebody makes mistakes somewhere, and it's just inevitable. The larger your environment grows, and they leave some window open, window of opportunity. And at some point, somebody gets into your network through that vulnerability. And then because people have been spending most of their time making sure that front door has a giant lock on it, and they're not spending as much time on making sure that the windows are secure and the back door is secure, that what happens is someone gets into your network and into maybe a cloud environment, and then they're able to traverse across your network. And they're able to look for what they would consider valuable. And then once they're able to find that whether company secrets or customer data or whatever you would consider the goodies, then they're going to exfiltrate that out of your network. And so really the biggest problem that we're seeing again is that everybody is too focused on making sure that inbound traffic is secure, and they're not spending as much time as they should probably on this what we call east-west traffic and outbound traffic to address this kind of data exfiltration issue. To add to that, and this is really, if anybody's heard the word microsegmentation, modern applications are much different than they were, let's say, applications were 10 years ago. So application workloads, you might have different, databases, shopping, web components, different pieces of those applications are living on different parts of your network. So before you were able to essentially segment your applications and your network using physical network devices because everything was on maybe one VLAN or one subnet. But now you have different workloads for one application that might be across different VLANs and different subnets. And so that becomes really challenging for a typical, switch or something that you might have been able to use 10 years ago. And especially if you're starting to introduce cloud, then that complexity it becomes more difficult, obviously, because you can't be using physical devices in these virtual and cloud environments. And so really what we're suggesting, and I think, and I know folks have been trying to wrestle with segmentation, microsegmentation. The goal is to actually make things more efficient and more secure. But often what happens is customers, they stumble and they try to put something together. It ends up being more complex. And so what we're seeing is really an adoption of software firewalls to address this situation, especially in a hybrid scenario. Because a software firewall solution is able to really have more granular control and apply policies at that workload level. So it doesn't really matter to the virtual firewall or software firewall where these different workloads are living, which cause they're in, which VNet, which subnet. It doesn't matter. We're able to put those software firewalls next to those workloads and inspect that traffic and make sure that there's no way that for some reason one of those workloads was compromised, that the threat would basically not be able to continue to the other workloads. So again, a pretty simplified architecture, but what would be considered, and this could be also a physical environment, but really what I'm talking about here is a typical cloud environment. So really using software firewalls, again, if our PA series, people love our PA series, physical firewalls. I would say if you could use a PA series to somehow get it into an Azure or an AWS data center, go for it. But since usually Microsoft and Amazon and AWS won't let us do that, then really the next best thing would be to have a software firewall to really do that same protection in cloud. And there's three different use cases, and I just covered the one on the left, which is the east-west traffic, or really that lateral movement. Which, by the way, I think I don't know what the analysts would say, but we're hearing from customers that up to like 90% of their traffic is east-west and lateral. So that's a huge piece of this puzzle. Is again not just inspecting traffic that's coming into your network, but having some plan to address this lateral traffic as well. But besides the east-west traffic, also spending time, like I mentioned, to address your outbound traffic. And again, because modern applications and developers are reaching out to the internet to get things, they're going out to GitHub for developer resources or other repositories. They're calling out to different APIs. They're calling out to get software updates. There are legitimate reasons why you have applications reaching outbound, out of your network, out of your cloud. And so you want to make sure that that happens efficiently and without delay. But you don't want anything to be, you definitely you don't want anything to be exfiltrated out to some, C2, some kind of command and control server, or letting someone, outbound. If somehow someone got a malicious URL in an email, you don't want them to be going out of your network. So you want to have something in place that is, again, inspecting that outbound traffic, so that you're able to let the good things out in a highly performant way, but at the same time blocking anything that really should not be out of your network. And then the bottom use case is very common. I think this is pretty obvious. This is kind of how firewall started, which is really just ensuring that there's a door guard at your front door to make sure that everybody on the list can come in, and anybody who's not on the list can't come in. Or I guess technically in the security world would be the reverse. If you're on the list, you're not allowed to come in. But really making sure that inbound traffic is secured as well. I have this little light bulb here on the right-hand side. One thing that I would just mention is that you can find a million different type of solutions for inbound traffic to protect inbound traffic into your cloud environment, even something like a web application firewall or a WAF. The problem is a lot of these technologies, they still rely on old lists. Like I said, they check a list, and if it's on the list, then they don't let that through. But what we're seeing is just a huge proliferation of unknown zero-day attacks, and so most of the time, successful attacks are not on a known list yet. And so if you don't have a modern security solution, like we call a next generation firewall, or something that has some intelligence or machine, in our case, we leverage machine learning models on our firewalls so that we can see anomalies. So even if something's not on a list, we still know that, hey, you know what, this looks a little sketchy. Let's go ahead and not let it in. So you think about how you want to approach this idea of addressing potential unknown and zero-day threats.